As the dedicated viewers of our beloved daytime drama already know, the formidable Anita Dupree has recently received some incredibly uplifting, tear-jerking news from her oncologist, Dr. Bauer. Hearing that her latest medical scans were completely clear of spreading cancer was a moment of pure, unadulterated joy for the entire Dupree family. However, despite this monumental victory, we cannot ignore the massive, looming hurdle that still stands directly in her way: the impending, highly invasive tumor removal surgery. While this operation is technically the final major step to completely eradicate her breast cancer and push the disease into permanent remission, I cannot help but feel a deep, unsettling sense of dread creeping into my mind. The harsh reality is that she is not entirely safe yet. Surgery, especially a complex lumpectomy or mastectomy following grueling, body-weakening rounds of chemotherapy, is never a simple walk in the park. It is a terrifying battlefield, and Anita is about to step right onto the front lines with her life hanging in the balance. Anita is not just any ordinary character on this canvas. She is the undisputed matriarch of the Dupree family. She is the fierce, elegant, and unyielding pillar that holds her entire family and arguably all of Fairmont Crest's elite high society together through thick and thin. If something were to go catastrophically wrong during this critical operation, I honestly do not think her family could withstand the devastating blow. The sheer thought of losing her is enough to send shivers down my spine and bring tears to my eyes. Everyone in town, from her closest blood relatives to her wealthy country club acquaintances, is praying fervently that she makes it through the operating room without a single hitch. But in the unpredictable, dramatic world of daytime soaps, a moment of peace is merely the calm before a devastating, life-altering storm. This brings me directly to her devoted husband, Vernon Dupree. I have always deeply admired how Vernon prioritizes Anita's health and well-being above absolutely everything else in his life. He is her unbreakable rock, her ultimate protector, and her fiercest advocate in every single medical setting. He absolutely refuses to let her make any medical decisions alone, standing steadfastly by her side through every terrifying consultation, every claustrophobic MRI scan, and every agonizing moment of uncertainty. Their enduring love story is truly one for the ages, but it also makes the current precarious situation so much more heartbreaking to witness. Imagine poor Vernon, sitting alone in that sterile, cold, hospital waiting room at Garland Memorial, feeling completely powerless as the absolute love of his life goes under the surgeon's knife. The psychological toll on him will be unimaginable if severe complications suddenly arise. So this makes me wonder, what if the brilliant writers of Beyond the Gates are secretly setting us up for a catastrophic medical emergency? I truly, from the bottom of my heart, do not want this to happen to our beloved matriarch, but the medical risks are undeniably real and ever-present. Life-threatening medical complications can strike anyone at any time without a single moment's notice. And unfortunately, they could easily fall upon Anita during this vulnerable time. My mind has been racing with terrifying worst-case scenarios, analyzing every tiny detail of her medical journey so far. She has been through extensive, aggressive chemotherapy, which takes a massive, undeniable toll on the human body. Her internal system is incredibly fragile right now, even if her outward spirit remains fiercely unbreakable. My theory is that we might be about to witness a sudden, catastrophic surgical emergency that nobody sees coming. Imagine this horrifying scene. The surgery is currently underway. The bright lights of the operating room are shining down, and the doctors are meticulously working to remove the dead tumor mass. Suddenly, without warning, a major blood vessel violently ruptures. Chemotherapy is notoriously known for severely weakening the delicate walls of blood vessels over long periods of treatment, making them incredibly fragile and prone to tearing. A sudden massive rupture would cause Anita's blood pressure to plummet into a dangerous, uncontrolled freefall. The heart monitors would instantly start blaring that terrifying, high-pitched alarm that haunts our nightmares. The surgical team at Garland Memorial would be thrown into absolute, frantic chaos, desperately trying to clamp the bleeder and stop the severe hemorrhaging while frantically calling the blood bank to mobilize the hospital's largest reserves of O-negative blood. It is a nightmare scenario that would have every single viewer on the absolute edge of their seats, gripping their armrests in pure terror. If this terrifying hemorrhage theory proves to be true, The emotional ripple effects out in the hospital waiting room would be utterly devastating to watch. Vernon would undoubtedly sense that something was horribly wrong. You know that deep, intuitive, almost psychic bond they share after decades of marriage? He would feel the shift in the universe right in his bones. Nicole and Danny would be pacing the linoleum floors, their previous petty sibling rivalries completely forgotten and erased in the terrifying face of losing their beloved mother. I can already picture the sheer, unadulterated terror in their tear-filled eyes as a panicked nurse rushes past them down the corridor, clutching bags of emergency blood. The dramatic tension would be completely off the charts, and I am already bracing myself for the emotional wreckage it would cause our favorite characters. But my theory doesn't stop there. What if the fatal danger strikes before the lead surgeon even makes the very first incision? I am incredibly worried that Anita might suffer a rare, completely unexpected, and life-threatening reaction to the general anesthesia. Anaphylactic shock, right there on the operating table, is a rare but entirely plausible and deadly complication. One moment, the anesthesiologist is asking her to count backward from 10, and the next, her airway is rapidly swelling shut, her skin is breaking out, and her entire body is plunging into severe systemic shock. This terrifying event would require the brilliant doctors at Garland Memorial to act within fractions of a single second. A delayed reaction of even 1 minute could result in irreversible brain damage from lack of oxygen, or even sudden cardiac arrest. The immense, crushing pressure on the surgical team in this hypothetical anaphylactic shock scenario would be absolutely staggering. We have certainly seen the dedicated medical staff at Garland Memorial handle intense crises before. Just look at how flawlessly they managed Kat and Eva's intense, high-stakes liver transplant surgeries. But Anita Dupree is the reigning matriarch of this town. The stakes are infinitely higher, and the political fallout for the hospital would be massive if they lost her. The doctors would have to instantly administer high doses of epinephrine, fight to secure her closing airway, and battle to stabilize her crashing vitals, all while the proverbial clock ticks down to 0. It makes me wonder if someone highly skilled like Dr. Madison Montgomery, or even the ruthless new chief of staff, Dr. Monica McCormick, would have to sprint into the OR to step in and make a split-second life or death call to save her. But that is not all. Let us play devil's advocate for a moment and assume she miraculously survives the operating table without a single complication. The surgery is officially declared a resounding textbook success. The cancerous tumor is entirely removed, and Vernon breathes a massive, tearful sigh of relief. The family rejoices, they pop the expensive champagne, and the Dupree family celebrates their hard-won victory. But what if that joyous celebration is just a cruel, manipulative misdirection by the writers? What if the true hidden danger lies silently in the post-operative recovery phase? I cannot shake the sinking feeling that a successful surgery might just be a false dawn, lulling the characters and us unsuspecting viewers into a highly dangerous, vulnerable sense of security. This leads me directly to my most terrifying and heartbreaking theory yet: severe post-operative sepsis. Imagine it is a few days after the successful surgery. Anita is resting comfortably in her luxurious VIP recovery suite, smiling softly and chatting about the future with Vernon. Suddenly, out of nowhere, she spikes a dangerously high fever. Her body begins to tremble uncontrollably with violent chills as a severe aggressive blood infection takes hold of her weakened system. Given her severely compromised immune system from months of toxic chemotherapy, a deadly drug-resistant superbug could easily invade her body through the surgical incision. To survive the harrowing battle against breast cancer only to be brought to the absolute brink of death by an aggressive, antibiotic-resistant bacteria would be the ultimate, most cruel and tragic irony imaginable. It would be a grueling, agonizing battle against an invisible, microscopic enemy that no amount of Dupree money or influence could easily defeat. Why is my mind constantly drifting to these dark, life-threatening scenarios? Am I just projecting my own deep-seated anxieties because the emotional stakes of this specific surgery are so incredibly high? Absolutely. Yes, I am. When you invest years of your life into watching a complex character like Anita grow, fight, love, and lead her family with such grace, the mere thought of her being taken out by a random surgical complication is deeply distressing and hard to process. I find myself holding my breath during every scene, desperately hoping that my dark theories are completely wrong. but knowing full well that the brilliant, twisted writers of Beyond the Gates absolutely love to push their characters to the absolute psychological and physical limit. The suspense is practically eating me alive, and I cannot stop analyzing every single medical detail. Furthermore, we absolutely have to consider the massive ticking time bomb of secrets currently bubbling just under the surface in the Dupree-Hawthorne family tree. Naomi Hawthorne has been lying straight to everyone's faces for months about testing positive for the deadly BRCA gene. If Anita is suddenly fighting for her life in the sterile ICU, hooked up to a mechanical ventilator due to a ruptured blood vessel or severe ravaging sepsis, Naomi's internal guilt will absolutely explode into a million pieces. How could she possibly continue to lie to her devoted husband Jacob and her suffering mother while Anita is actively dying from the exact same genetic disease Naomi is predisposed to? I strongly suspect that a sudden, terrifying medical emergency with Anita will be the exact emotional catalyst that finally forces Naomi to break down and drop her devastating, long-held bombshell on the entire unsuspecting family. And let us not forget the sheer bone-deep exhaustion this family is already facing on a daily basis. The Duprees and the Richardsons just went through absolute, unadulterated hell with Kat and Eva's traumatic liver transplant ordeal. Kat literally had a profound out-of-body experience and nearly died on the operating table due to severe complications just to save Eva's life. The family's emotional and physical reserves are completely, utterly depleted. If Anita suddenly crashes, it will test the absolute final limits of their collective sanity. Will Kat feel a deep sense of survivor's guilt that her beloved grandmother is suffering while she is successfully recovering? Will this new shared trauma finally force Kat and Eva to permanently bury the hatchet and support each other as true sisters? Or will the immense stress fracture the already fragile family dynamics beyond any hope of repair? So, what are the ultimate possible outcomes for our beloved Anita Dupree? There are several distinct, highly dramatic possibilities on the table. She could miraculously pull through without a scratch, proving once again that she is the indestructible, resilient queen of Fairmont Crest who can conquer anything. Alternatively, she could suffer a brain injury from lack of oxygen and fall into a prolonged, agonizing coma, leaving a devastated Vernon to make the agonizing, soul-crushing decision of whether or not to keep his soulmate on life support. There's also the horrifying, unthinkable possibility that she actually passes away on the operating table, which would fundamentally alter the entire DNA of the show forever, leaving a massive, chaotic power vacuum in the Dupree corporate and social empire. Or perhaps she survives the ordeal but is left permanently incapacitated or weakened, forcing her ambitious daughters, Nicole and Danny, to step up, stop bickering, and finally take the reins of the family dynasty. Whatever happens in the coming episodes, I am firmly strapping myself in for what promises to be one of the most emotional, tear-jerking roller coasters in the entire history of Beyond the Gates. I am rooting for Anita's survival with every single fiber of my being, but my speculative, theory-loving brain is fully preparing for a medical disaster of epic, unprecedented proportions. Will this highly anticipated surgery be her ultimate, crowning victory over cancer, or will it be the tragic, sudden end of an iconic era? We will just have to keep our eyes glued to our television screens, tissues in hand, to find out how this plays out. Let me know all of your wildest theories and predictions in the comment section below. And please keep sending all of those positive, healing vibes to the Dupree family.